You call Milton Friedman the last great conservative. Maybe to be a little bit sort of controversial and make bold statements that get everybody excited. But what do you mean by that, and what makes a great conservative?
So I was really thinking of that in terms of kind of American political identities, and particularly the 20th century conservative movement, which, people are always saying this isn't conservatism. And I was like, yes, in America, conservatism is different. It looks different. It feels different. Conservatism in America builds in a big component of what we could call libertarianism, pro-capitalism, anti-government ideas. And critics will say, but conservatism is about conserving institutions and practices, and it has a role for the state and an organic community. But in the United States, it's always had, since the 20th century, this anti-statist, let's let the market rip. Let's not worry about what the market does to establish traditions. The market is our tradition. Capitalism is our tradition. So that was really synthesized. Many people were there, but Friedman and the importance of his books, Free to Choose, Capitalism and Freedom, the television series he did, all of these were like core components of this American conservative synthesis as it evolved. And I really see that as having broken down. It is scattered into different pieces, and we don't know where they're going to come back together again. But, Friedman's push for open global markets, unfettered free trade, that's getting pushback on both the left and the right. That I think is just a major sign that, both parties have turned away from this vision. I don't know what they've turned to, but the way that Friedman brought these pieces together, I think that political moment is past. So that's what I was trying to talk about with the book title. There's another way, though, in which I think of him also as a conservative, which is that within the field of economics, he went back to this older idea, the quantity theory of money, and said, this still has value. This can be applied in the modern day. It is something to teach us. And he, pushed back against this trend towards mathematicization. So he kept writing books. You can still pick up a Friedman book and read it, whereas lots of economics articles and output, it's like unreadable unless you're in the field. And so I think in that way, he was trying to conserve methodologically and intellectually the traditions of the field. The work that he and particularly Anna Schwartz did, that literal accounting of things and deep analysis of data from the field, that was like completely unfashionable in his time. Now we've sort of gone back to it with big data and with computers. But he helped bring that forward and preserve that tradition. So I think of him kind of intellectually as a conservative, if you think of the mode of his thought. And so, what makes a great conservative is one who takes those older ideas and makes them fresh for a new time period. I think that's exactly what he did.
You've also spoken about the fact that the times when he was sort of out in public, there was more of an open battle of ideas, where conservatism often had, William F. Buckley. He had a more vibrant, deep debate over ideas, where it seems less deep now.
That is the thing that it's hard, especially like for the students I teach today, to be like, there were arguments about ideas and conservatives won a bunch of them, and that happened in the 70s and late 1960s to 1970s when they, one set of arguments was about economics. Like, okay, this idea of stimulating the economy by spending more, it has a downside. The downside's called inflation. And the downside's called too much regulation. And you've gone too far in kind of bottling up the actual sources of economic growth and dynamism, and we have to let those free. In social policy, there was also a critique. The Great Society had all these ideas of ending poverty, and people came and analyzed them and said the programs aren't helping. In some ways, you've actually created engines to trap people in poverty because you've given them a benefit and said if they actually start to work, they lose the benefit. You've created all these perverse incentives. And these ideas were fought out. They were empirical. They were controversial. And they were based on really deep research and really deep argumentation. And so it seems that era has passed. It seems like we're driven much more quickly by moods rather than thought through ideas. Right now, it seems like the ideas come after they follow the political mood and try to put together the underpinning of it, where it really was the opposite for much of the 20th century.
It does seem like we lead with emotional turmoil,
right?
And the ideas follow versus lead with the ideas, and the sort of the emotion of the masses respond.
Right, exactly. So if we think of the evolution of conservatism, it was a whole set of ideas that was crafted, refined, the 1950s, 1960s, 1970s, sort of really found their emotional standard bearer, translator, salesperson in Ronald Reagan, who incidentally had been following these ideas as they developed and had been honing his ability to express them and apply them politically. It's a very opposite if we look at Trump as the political definer of the era. There's a set of ideas, but it was more attitudes, impulses, vibes, and the ideas are coming after that, trying to figure out how they patch on. So it's interesting to watch, to see that difference. And I hazard that a lot of it just has to do with the immediacy of the media environment we're in, and it's just power of the media messages to get out so fast.